So, you picked up Speedroids, but you have no idea how to play it or what to play it. This video is for you. Speedroids are a new exciting archetype that recently came out, and the deck is far from solved. Not only in terms of lists, in terms of gameplay as well, because the decision branches you have are infinite. So for starters, we have the main deck decisions. How many copies of the cards you see on my screen you play, and on how many copies. I mean, to start, you're obviously gonna play Red-Eyed Dice. It's a card that, it's your basic tuner, you're obviously gonna play it. But the question is how many copies, because in the beginning, most of us thought that 2 copies was the best ratio, because you're always gonna have one in deck for the Taketomborg effect and for the skill second effect, because you always want to have it in deck or in the graveyard, you don't want it in your hand. But it's a card that works with the skill. It doesn't do anything on its own. It doesn't extend your plays, it doesn't do anything. So drawing 1 copy without the Wind Charmer, is usually you being with 1 card less in hand, and yes, there's nothing more you can do it. With 1 copy, you're just playing the 1. However, this makes the 1 copy way more fragile to back rows like Warning Point or hand traps like Diddy Crow. However, you can play around these cards, especially you can play around Crow. The Terror Top line plays around Crow like butter. And if you draw the 1 dice, it sucks, but you can play around it. You can send the Duke to special summon it. You can even normal summon it in some cases, but that's very rare. As for my personal preference, I think 1 dice is optimal, because I want to fit in more copies of the cards that I'm gonna analyze after the dice, and because I don't want to see it in my hand. I don't want to see it in my hand. I mean, if I play 1 copy, I'm gonna see it less. The next card is Den Daiko Duke. The Daiko Duke is another card that the community is conflicted upon. 1 copy, 2 copies. Basically, it's your best target for the skill, and it really sucks to draw it. It really sucks to draw the 1 if you want to send it with a skill. But you're also gonna draw it less often if you play 1 copy. If you play 2 copies, however, there will always be 1 in your deck for the skill. Almost always you may draw 2, which is a bit disastrous, unless you have Win in hand. Win discarding the tuner quote-unquote bricks can help in a lot of cases, especially with Daiko. And if you play 2 copies, you're gonna draw it more often, but you can play around it, as I said. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is the second Duke gives you way better follow-up on turn 3. I've seen myself using the second Duke a lot to play around 1, even 2 back rows and OTKing. I believe 2 Duke is very good. I think that it's also the best discard fodder for Win, which is a 3-off in your deck, so play 2 Duke. I am a fan of 2 Dukes at the moment. The next card is Modoshi Piper. This card is strange to me, because it's a straight +1, which I really like. It's a very good target for Terror Top Taketomborg. A friend of mine calls it Terror Tops for some reason, and he calls Terror Top Beigomax, which is the Japanese name, Japanese translation. It's a very strong target off of Taketomborg. It's just a straight +1. There are situations where you excavate more than 1 card, and the most important thing that I also write is I can excavate lands. The best card against the strategy turn 2 is Mind Control, and I really want to have lands for Mind Control. so more shots at it are always welcome. However, that's going first. Going second, the card isn't ideal. I mean, yes, it can resolve and get you a +1, but you may not get it that spot. Also, if you draw it, it's the worst to draw, because it literally is a hard brick that doesn't do anything. It works only if you have Terror Top, but if you have Terror Top, you want to summon other options going second. The most important thing in my opinion, however, is that it doesn't synergize with double Yo-Yo because it's level 4. If it synergized with Yo-Yo, you could just make Kite Drake with it, which would be insane, but it doesn't work like that. So this card has not the best synergy with the skill. And that's it. I'm back and forth on Piper. I sometimes want to play him, sometimes I don't. In this format, I think there is space for him because I'm gonna analyze, because of the copies of Speed Recovery I would play, but moving forward, I think that Modoshi Piper may come out of some lists, will be in others. I think it's 100% your personal preference at this point. Like, the card is very good going first. If you went first every time, I would say play Piper. And the fourth card is Speed Recovery. You can already see the reason why I'm even considering this card, which otherwise would 100% be played. Reading Speed Recovery's effects makes you think, why am I questioning this card? Well, the answer is obvious. Sealed Tombs. Orcast is playing Sealed Tombs for the mirror match, and it's also a very strong skill against Speedroids. And ironically, the best use for Cosmic Cyclone against a Speedroid matchup for Orcast players is Cosmic Their Own Return and activating the Sealed Tomb skill. It shuts down all of your lines except the Terror Top line. And for that, you can just have a back row. It's very good. Otherwise, you would play any number of copies, 1, 2, or even 3. I've seen 3 copies, 2 copies, 1 copy. Most lists I've seen are on 2. The lists that I've tested with my friends are on 1, and we usually sided it out against Sealed Tombs Orcast. It's an insane card, but Sealed Tombs just makes me question it more. If this skill wasn't in the game, I would be playing 2 copies or 1 copy, most likely 2 copies. The final card in the main deck that now we question its playability is Car Turbo. It's either 1 off or at 0 copies. It's not the best target for the skill, but that's not really the biggest issue in my opinion. It's also a level 3, and the best cards for it are level 6 synchros, but I think all of them suck. I mean, except Charge Warrior, but spoiler alert, I don't think Charge Warrior is an optimal extra deck card. Also, another reason to not play it is you prefer Piper and 2 Duke, and you want to play 2 Duke and 1 Piper and stick to 20 cards. That's a reason I can see somebody arguing for. However, I am a fan of Car Turbo at 1, and the reasons are that it's not dead in your hand, and it's also searchable from your deck if you want to search it from your deck for some Taketomborg lines. It also works well going first and second with specific monsters. You can make Crystal Wing with Hagoita, for example, which can occur in some combo lines. Also, going second, it works with Hastor really well in a combo that allows you to break the Voloferniger's Roach turn 1 board. Also, the attack boost isn't irrelevant. It really helps you into OTKing because it essentially makes lands not losing you attack, and it also boosts all of your monsters. There will be a lot of times where you have 3 monsters on the field and you're gonna get plus 2400 attack. That's a lot of attack. I am a fan of 1 copy of Car Turbo. I'm just gonna say that right now. I really like the card, but That's for the main deck. The extra deck options are way more. Here are only some of the cards. And for starters, you're gonna be like, why is Crystal Wing? Why is Clear Wing here? And why is Kite Drake here? Well, you're obviously gonna play these two cards. They are staples in your extra deck. The question is, however, how many Clear Wings? 1 or 2 copies? I am a fan of 2 copies, I'm gonna say it right now, because it's sometimes your ideal turn 1 boss alongside the Crystal Wing. Like in this case, for example, against Odd Dice, it's a very good card because it negates Time Breaker, it negates almost all of the Exeases as well. It's a very good card to have alongside the Crystal Wing. Also, the 2 copies are because Rocket is a deck, and if you play one, they're gonna banish it. So I think that 2 copies of Clear Wing is necessary just for that at this point. Also, it's a good card because it's also good at 2 in some strategies, as I said. However, you can argue playing 1 copy because you want to make some space for more generic options going second, and because it's not good against Orcust as a piece of your end board. It does nothing to Orcust, which is the best deck. However, I still think it's worth playing 2 at the moment. The next card, arguably your best finisher, is High Speedroid Kite Drake. The question is, how many copies? 1 or 2 copies? The 2 copy discussion is exactly because of Rockets, because if they see you have 2 Clear Wings, they're just gonna banish your Kite Drake instead. And you don't want that. Kite Drake is insane, even against Rockets, because it doesn't matter if they float, you're gonna kill them that turn. In most instances. Also, against Rockets, I've seen people make 2 Kite Drakes because they couldn't kill. And they made the next Kite Drake in the next turn. Keep in mind, I am treating Kite Drake as the best finisher in the deck also. So if it's the best finisher out of all of them, why not play 2? I'm just gonna say, however, that you're mostly gonna make 1 Kite Drake in most games, and you would like your second finisher to be something with a different effect that can bypass Dingirsu's protection effect. However, you can still use Hastor, old entity Hastor, in conjunction with Kite Drake to bypass Dingirsu. However, it's not a 1-card combo. The next card is Black Rose Dragon, because it is a level 7 nuke that you can summon before locking yourself into wings or wind effects with Taketomborg or Carturbo. However, I'm just gonna say it right now, if you play Black Rose at this point, play a second Kite Drake. I think Kite Drake is better, and you can make Kite Drake without your normal summon as well with 1 card. I understand that it can catch people off guard, but I think Kite Drake is a better card at wiping the board. At this point, play Kite Drake. The next card, this is gonna be a bit conflicting because Cyframe Lord Zeta is not a winged monster, so this immediately makes you argue, why are you gonna play this? It doesn't have Taketomborg strategy. Well, you don't need you can make this without using Taketomborg in conjunction to your Crystal Wing, which is very good. It's a very good removal effect, and it deals very well with link strategies. It's like better, it's obviously way better against Orcust. Also, there is a line where you can make 2 of them, which takes up a lot of extra deck slots because you're just gonna play 2 Zetas, but it is the best board you can make against Orcust. The reason is because you do not lose to mind control. I mean, you lose to 2 mind controls, but you cannot do anything about that. But if 1 Zeta is enough to stop Orcust. The question is, if you end on Zeta plus Crystal Wing, if they mind control your Crystal Wing and you don't have the Lance, Zeta is useless. But if you end on double Zeta, they can mind control the 1, but since you will have summoned both of them in defense, it does nothing. Like, okay, they can steal the one, they can steal one, and then what? They're gonna try and attack over? Okay, you're just gonna banish. It doesn't matter. But I can understand that it's a card that's specifically good going first, not going second, and I am not sure if it's applicable in any other matchup except Orcast. But 2 Zeta turn 1 I think is the best board against Orcast. I haven't seen yet people making it because there isn't really the room in the extra deck, but if Orcast jumps to the tier 0 status, I think it will reach, then we may consider the double Zeta. Next card is Brionac. I've seen people's lists having Brionac. Sachi's list, for example, plays it. Sachi is a very good player, 3rd place in the last KC Cup as well. However, I am not the biggest fan. It's not the best finisher. It's not an on-summon effect compared to Kite Ray, compared to Trishula, compared to Mistworm. And since it's not an on-summon effect, your opponent can just interrupt it, like, very easily. Also, it's not a wind, and normally the best way to make level 6s in this deck is with Car Turbo, and Car Turbo conflicts with that. Also, it requires discard fodder, and you will not always have discard fodder. However, it's a card that bypasses Dingirsu protection, and you can make it. Level 6 is not a bad level for the deck. You can make Brionac. However, I don't think it's worth it. I think that there are ways to play around Dingirsu without Brionac that also address other matchups. The next card is Cyber Slash. Cyber Slash is a strange card to me. I think, however, it's better going first than going second, because yes, going second, it can apply some pressure into back row decks because you're just gonna bounce back your opponent's monsters, but I don't think it's better, for example, than summoning Kite Drake. I guess if you have another monster on the field, you can summon it instead of Kite Drake in some instances, but still, Kite Drake I think is better. Like, and it's also like it's not the first Velate you're gonna summon. The first one will always be Crystal Wing, turn 1, and then you're gonna summon Kite Drake turn 2. However, it is a wind monster, which means that it works with Car Turbo and Hagoita, for example, and it also bypasses the Dingirsu protection. However, and it's also an extra disruption if you have attack. It sorta helps you against mind control. I think you're just gonna die, however, if you just bounce back your monster and you don't have anything else for Slash to stop Orcast. I don't think Slash is worth it at the moment. However, there may be a format where Slash is worth it. Next card is Mistworm. Mistworm is a finisher. It's a level 9 synchro monster that requires 1 tuner and 2 non-tuner monsters. It has 2500 attack, which in my opinion is low. It's low. However, it is a wind monster, and its level isn't the best, but that can be managed. You can summon a level 9 monster with 3 materials in the deck. It's not the biggest issue. However, I'm not sure if it's better than Kite Drake. I mean, if the opponent has Dingirsu face up, it is, but Kite Drake has higher attack, it's the best finisher, and I think Rockets force you into 2 Kite Drake if you want to respect them, and I think you do respect Rockets. They are a relevant deck. So, its positives are that it's also an on-summon effect, it bypasses Dingirsu, and it's also a wind, and it has very good synergy. I'm writing is a win so take. I mean Take Tomborg. Take can give you the missing tuner and be the extender. That's very good. You're gonna make this card. However, I'm not sure if it's worth it in the current format. If we didn't have rockets in the meta, I would really consider Mistworm in the deck in the place of a second Kite Drake, for example. The next card is another Mistworm, Trishula Zero Dragon. Trishula has the negative of not being a wind monster, so it's not always the easiest thing to make. It has the same requirements as Mistworm, a bit higher attack stat but still low for my liking. I think Kite Drake is better than Trishula, but with the exception of the matchup of rockets, because if this card resolves against rockets, it wins you the match automatically. They will not float, nothing, and it also doesn't target. So yeah, you're gonna pop with a Tracer, guess what, I'm gonna banish the monster you summoned already and I'm gonna kill you. I mean, the issue with this card alongside with the Mistworm, however, is if they get hit by Warning Point, you wasted 3 resources, and also they tend to play into Needle quite often because you need 3 monsters to summon them. So that can be a bit annoying. However, if you're able to summon Trishula against rockets and resolve it, it's insane. In testing, rockets didn't really come back from it. Next card is Mist Valley Colossals, which is a natural inclusion to a synchro deck that would normally die to Roach. If they end you on Roach Pass against you, you don't care. You simply just summon this and you just negate Roach and you just kill them. That's exactly how. It's also, you need it also for the 3-card combo that kills through Volofernigues and Roach. Yes, that's true. There is a 3-card combo that kills through Volofernigues and Roach, and it is an engine combo. You don't need a tech. You can replace, however, a piece with a tech, which makes it more consistent. I've seen this happen in tournaments a lot. It also can negate Dingirsu to make the room for Kite Drake. However, I think there is a card that does this better than Colossals. Like, it's there mostly for Roach Pass, and I think there are better options than it. Also, it reaches its maximum potential when you play other cards in the extra deck as well, because you cannot just make Colossals against odd dice. They're just gonna pop it with Volo. You need to make another line that requires you to play Hastor and Puzzle. Since we spoke about him, here is All Identity Hastor. I have no idea why people aren't really trying this card out. I think it's very good. I really like the 1 copy. The arguments against it are that it does nothing going first, because every day can play around it going to the graveyard. Orcus can shuffle it back, for example. It also needs 2 3-card combos to work going second, but I don't think that's really something that is inconsistent enough. If you play the 1 copy, you're gonna be able to beat Roach plus Volo every time. Not necessarily OTK, because if they find out the 3-card combo, they're just gonna summon Roach in defense. In case you don't know, you basically use Hastor to equip to Volo, and they either, if they pop or not, they lose, because you then go Colossals, make Roach 0 attack, then you make Puzzle, and Puzzle attacks over Roach, and you're gonna have Car Turbo also in the combo and kill with Puzzle through Roach. It is also good with Kite Drake, because if you make this with, if you make Clear Wing with this, you can equip this to Dingirsu, and they cannot Cosmic Cyclone the card, because then you're just gonna take Dingirsu. and then you can summon Kite Drake and nuke the entire board. I am a huge fan of Hastor going second. It helps you beat cards that you normally wouldn't be able to beat, and it also synergizes well with cards like Cosmic Cyclone in the deck, because you can equip this to a card and then Cosmic the Hastor to take control of the monster. It doesn't really happen, but it is an option you have. In general, I spoke about the extra deck cards that you may decide. I think the 5 cards that you see here, all at 1 copy, are the staple extra deck cards. Crystal Wing, Clear Wing, Kite Drake, I don't think I need to say anything about them. Hagoita is extremely important. I've seen people not playing this card. I think these people are insane. This card is always follow-up option, and it also has a decent effect against rockets and no dice, because it stops them from making exeges and synchros. It doesn't really work as a disruption in the mirror match or against Forecast, but that's okay. It's still a follow-up option, a very good one, and it helps you make the level 9 and 11 synchros in case you want to play them. High Speedroid Puzzle is a synchro that you use for follow-up and as a way to beat Roach. I think it's mandatory at this point because you need the follow-up. If Seal Tombs dies and Speed Recovery is a card, becomes a card again that you play 100%, I would consider cutting this card. You're not gonna be like, you are thinking of Unsearchable main deck card replacing the follow-up a card in your extra deck gives, and I would tell you yes. Because I kinda need the room, but at this point I think puzzles is mandatory. As for cards I wouldn't really play, I'm gonna start with the Stardust Warrior package. I think it takes way too much room out of your extra deck, and because you need it and the Azusa, and I don't think it's even ideal turn 1, especially not even against odd dice, because they can just bait this with Time Breaker, for example, and then they can like pop it with Dragon Pulse. Also against Solfachord, you may not even be able to activate this card if they have a scale that stops you from doing so. The next card, which will confuse a lot of people, is Charge Warrior. I don't think he's worth it. I mean, his second effect of attacking all the monsters, especially someone, I guess it's neat, but its attack is way too low for that to matter. And it draws you a card, sure. I mean, that's a good effect. I get it, but I don't think there's the room for it, and I would like better options. I think that the level 6 wind options we have aren't the best. The same thing about Kendama, which it's not the next in turn, but Kendama sucks. I'm sorry to hardcore Speedroid fans. I don't think the card is good at all. Next is Psychic Riser. It has a niche floodgate effect, but I don't think it's that good. Next one is the most contradictory one, which is Speedroid Chanbara. I don't think you need Chanbara to close games. It's good in the mirror, sometimes, it's actually good in the mirror, but I don't think you need it to close games. You can close games way more easily with Kite Drake and a summon, or with 2 monsters and a boost from Carwind. You don't need the Chanbara double attack. It is a good card. It can also recycle stuff that got banished due to Ice Dragon's Prison or due to Diddy Crow, but I don't think that's a reason to waste a slot in your extra deck. And the final card is Battle Was Hama. It's basically Chanbara if it's summoned with a Synchro Monster. Level 8, if you can summon a level 8 monster, you're gonna summon Kite Drake. That's it. So I'm gonna finish this video with what I consider right now to be the ideal extra deck against the other top 3 meta decks. This is my ideal extra deck against Orcast, because you only need 1 Clear Wing against them. It is only needed at 1. It's not good in your end board against Orcast. one Kite Drake is enough, one Crystal Wing is also enough for the combo, because I said before that 2 Zeta is optimal, but sometimes going second you are gonna play Crystal Wing control against Torcast, especially against the hand trap build. Old Entity Hastor is necessary for the Kite Drake line that kills through Seal Tombs as well if you have the 2-card combo. And the 2 Zeta, that's a personal inclusion. I think 2 Zeta is insane going first against Torcast. It's the only turn 1 that doesn't lose to mind control. So yeah, it also is not affected by Electric Virus, which people are starting to picking up on. So yeah, you can consider playing 2 Zeta if you really think Orcast is a tier 0 deck. The Hagoita and the Puzzle, obviously, I think they're mandatory. Moving on, as you can see, this is a main problem with the deck. The ideal extra deck changes a lot. For example, I'm playing 2 Clear Wings and 2 Kite Drakes against Rocket because I want them both as options against Rockets, because I don't want them to get banished by the Silver Rocket. They will most likely banish the Crystal Wing or the Hagoita, mostly the Crystal Wing, and that's it. The Trishula is here because it's very good against Rocket, but it's not always needed, but as I said, if it resolves against Rocket, it's game. And obviously the 2 mandatory, Hagoita and Rocket. Hagoita is a disruption against Rocket, keep that in mind. They need rapid trigger to play around the Hagoita's level increase, unless they have thought about it and they are playing a level 10 synchro that they can summon, or a rank 5 Exist monster. They can make Booster Dragon, yes, with the monsters, but you are happy for that. You don't care about that. And finally, the ideal extra deck against Odd Eyes. You can see how many changes we have. 2 Clear Wing is ideal because you want to end on Crystal Wing plus Clear Wing against Odd Eyes. The 1 Kite Drake, you're not gonna need more because Odd Eyes is not the most grindy deck out there. You're not gonna need another finisher. And the pieces for the lethal line through Roach, Volo, if they're obviously in attack, if Roach is in attack, which will always be. The Closolas, the Hastor, the Hagoita, and the Puzzle. Overall, that was the video. I sure hope I helped you figuring out how to build your Speedroid deck. I am very excited to see how the deck will evolve. It's really nice that we have a deck that has so many different plays and combos going first and second, and doesn't repeat the same play over and over again like other decks in this format do. That's all for today. Have a nice day, everybody.